Okay, so one of the most common questions I've been getting is what is the best weapon class in the game? So as someone that got to try out every weapon at max level, and also just I have a little more experience because I got to play the game early, today I'm actually going to be ranking and tier listing the weapons and magics if you consider them not weapons, but they're also weapons, they're just staffs. But before we get into the rankings, I do want to give you guys some disclaimers about the tier list because these are very important so you know actually what I'm ranking. The thing is, the ranking is mostly based on PvE, and early game is also considered, and that's mostly because I don't have too much experience in PvP, and also I just feel like this game is mostly PvE for 99% of players. I might make a separate PvP tier list later, but for now we're mostly talking about PvE. So obviously some weapons that have things that are really good in PvP, for example like invisibility, which I guess is still good in PvE, but that's a much more useful thing in PvP, is going to be a bit worse on this list because it's mostly talking about PvE. So really what I'm saying is it's going to favor things that do a lot of damage, obviously, that are good at killing mobs fast and grinding fast. And I'm also going to say real quick, pretty much every class in this game is viable. There is some better than others easily in my opinion, but there definitely are all relative to each other, or at least for the most part. So like, don't think because I put something in C tier that means it's unusable, because it's not. Everything is usable, and also it might be a good secondary weapon, just not a good primary, so it's gonna be a bit lower on the list. And definitely let me know in the comments if I say something you guys disagree with, because since I tried out all the weapons, they actually have done some balance changes and I haven't had the chance to look at every single weapon again, so maybe some things are updated, and if they are, let me know and I'll probably pin the comment or something. Okay, but starting off the list with C tier, which is honestly not even a bad weapon like I said, so it kind of pains me to put it here, it's Fire Staff. And this might be a bit controversial because Fire Staff honestly isn't bad at all. The main reason I have it in C tier and the lowest on the list is because most mages have been telling me that Ice Staff is better right now, and most mage builds are going to want to get heals as well, so you're probably going to want to combo either Ice Staff or Fire Staff with Celestial Staff. And obviously if Ice Staff is better, you're going to get Celestial Staff as well a lot of times, meaning Fire Staff is going to get left out a lot. With that being said, individually the staff is still really good. It has some really good skills, like I mean some really good skills, but the burn damage is honestly pretty mid from what I've seen so far. I did test it out a little bit with Dream Chaser, and he honestly thinks it's mid. I think it's mid. I do think it is one of the worst weapons in the game, probably at least top 2 bottom. Although it does do pretty good DPS, there's better DPS replacements, and there's also other weapons that have about the same DPS like Ice Staff, which also have utility, like Ice Staff can stun and whatnot. But I don't want to make this about Ice Staff, but just so you guys know, that's the reasoning behind it. Like that weak ass burn damage, I'm not gonna lie to y'all, is not enough to offset not having stun and whatnot. But the next thing in C tier as well is also not a bad weapon at all, and the main reason it's in C tier is because there's actually pretty much a better replacement similar to Fire Staff, and that is actually the Dagger. By no means is the Dagger bad. I actually have been using it because I did get a good Dagger off spawn on my new slot, and it honestly has some of the coolest moves in the game, but for PvE it simply really doesn't have moves that hold up well compared to like Great Sword or some of the other weapons that I'll go into later on the list. For example, one of the Dagger skills that a lot of people are getting is this Blink skill, which is basically a TP, and that TP skill is useful and good, but like I said, for the most part you're going to be wanting to do a lot of DPS, and for PvE it was even agreed upon for the testers that Dagger isn't really the best PvE weapon. It's just a lot of its skills aren't really made for PvE. Like I said, invisibility, the Blink skill, even like the shield skill it has, it's good for PvE, but not as good as some of the other skills of the other weapons on the list. Like, not to beat Dagger while it's down, like come on Dagger, fight back, but some skills like invisibility, which we're probably gonna see a lot of people run, are very bad in some scenarios as well. Okay, let me chill. It's not like the worst thing in the world, but once we start getting to the dungeons and the catacombs and whatnot, you're gonna see a lot of NPCs, and Dagger users are supposed to be physical users taking pressure off like your mages and whatnot. Now what happens when you pop the Dagger invisibility skill is you actually just disappear and all the NPCs start attacking your teammates, which might not have builds with high HP and whatnot. With that being said, there is a million good uses of the skill. It is a really good skill, but that's just one of the things that I feel like people aren't noticing yet. But one thing I will say about Dagger, which still makes it really good, is honestly that it does complement bow very well. If you use bow with Dagger, it's pretty good, and bow is very strong. The only thing is for PvE, I'm gonna be so real with y'all, it's probably better off just going Great Sword bow. That's probably just a stronger build overall, so that's kind of why Dagger falls this low. Now next we got B tier, and we're gonna be talking about a weapon that got nerfed heavily, but it's still here simply because there is no replacement for it, and that's the Celestial Staff. The Celestial Staff before release healed a ton, and for some reason they nerfed it to the ground. Like, I mean, the heals do not be healing like they used to. I used to be getting healed to damn near full health by my boy Dream Chaser. Now he healed me like 200 HP. But with that being said, it still has some good offensive skills. Obviously it's the only thing in the game that can heal, which is going to be necessary for like dungeons and whatnot and bosses. So being the only thing that can heal, you still have good range, good skills like the chicken skill, which turns people into chickens and they're like useless. Like even with the nerfs, it's still pretty good just because it has good utility. It's the only thing that can heal and good range. And the range is really important right now for PvE. I mean, if you're struggling using a physical, like, close range build right now, like Dagger Greatsword or something, bro, please try range because it's actually gonna change your life. And overall, Celestial Staff is just a really good complementary piece to another weapon, so that's why it's here. And it's also just necessary for a lot of things in the game, so I can't rank it at the bottom. It has to be somewhere because it's literally necessary, compared to Dagger and Fire Staff are really not necessary. But before we talk about the weapons in A tier, I have an important announcement. Most of y'all, almost all y'all, are not subscribed. Okay, let me be serious, but make sure to check if you're subscribed because you're probably not. But currently I'm in college and I'm trying to do YouTube as a full-time thing, so if you want to do me a favor and hit the like and subscribe button, it will do a lot for the algorithm and the channel, and I'll just appreciate it in general, and it's gonna help me get to my goals, so I'd appreciate it. Thank y'all, love y'all, continue with the video. And now we're finally in A tier, and like I said, all of these weapons are viable, but we're finally in the upper echelon, the best weapons in the game, at least in my opinion, that is. And the first thing in A tier is Ice Staff. Now Ice Staff is probably the best mage weapon in the game right now, that's why I have it as the highest. Ice Staff has good damage, good AoE, and also does a lot of stun. It also has really good survivability. You have a move where you could basically cocoon yourself in ice and protect yourself. There's not really another move like that in the game right now. I guess kind of there's like a Dagger skill like that, but it's a bit different. You also have Ice Turret, which basically is like a whole second person fighting with you. And I'm not a mage main, so I could be a little off with my estimations of the mage stuff. But from my understanding, what makes the Ice Staff so much better than like Fire Staff, for example, is you get all this utility with like the stun I just told you about. You have the AoE, you have the Ice Turret, you have the cocoon, survivability. So basically you have way more options and way more utility, and you barely lose any damage compared to Fire Staff from what I've heard. Like maybe there's some crazy fire build that I don't know about right now, but from what I've seen myself and also heard, like Ice Staff is barely doing less damage than Fire Staff, but it just has way better and way more useful skills. Now pre-nerf Celestial, I honestly think would be an A tier, probably above Ice Staff, but after the nerfs, I feel like Ice Staff is definitely better, and I feel like we're gonna see a lot of people run Ice Staff plus Celestial Staff to combo very well with each other and basically be the support for the team. Okay, so let's move on to the second weapon in A tier. In my opinion, the second best weapon in the game right now, and that weapon is Greatsword. Now Greatsword is a very straightforward build, like very straightforward. Big sword do big damage. Like Greatsword, I'm pretty sure has the highest DPS in the game for obvious reasons. I mean, it's literally a Greatsword. It doesn't have any very complicated skills. They're mostly just like a smash or a slash or a spin. They're all just like basically very high damage skills. Okay, my fault. I did forget to mention there is a skill where you can pull enemies from hella far and it stuns them. Very OP, and it's not very simple. And for PvE, to be honest, that's really what you need. Like I said, for PvP, I could see more of these finesse skills like invisibility on Dagger being more useful. But for PvE, no weapon is really able to just output pure DPS like the Greatsword other than the weapon above it. The only thing really holding Greatsword back is the fact that it has no range compared to some of the other weapons do have range. So with that being said, you're actually going to have to try a little bit harder simply because you are using a close range weapon, so you got to parry and whatnot. And also, since you're going to be close range, you probably also have to put a bit more stats in health and whatnot, because if you don't have health, you might just get obliterated really quick. But that's mostly early game, to be honest. Once you get past early game, Greatsword really starts to shine once you have more HP. But now we're in S tier, which in my opinion is the best weapon in the game by a pretty marginal gap. And that weapon, if you guys don't know, you need to find out, because it's bow. Now I know some of y'all gonna be like, boo boo, get him off the stage, because you haven't seen how good bow is, but let me actually describe to you how disgusting bow is. First of all, I think bow and Greatsword is the best build in the game right now. You could go bow Dagger as well. It's also a really good build, but I feel like the pure DPS from bow Greatsword is just really OP. But what makes bow itself so broken is it does so much damage and it has so much range at the same time, and its skills do a ton of damage, have a ton of range, and also have good utility. Better utility even than Ice Staff in my opinion, or very close. On my new slot, I just did the main storyline. Obviously I got to the Bears quest, and my friend was actually struggling with the Bears quest, and he was literally duoing the Bears with someone else, but they were not using bow. And with that being said, the Bears aren't the hardest quest in the world, don't get me wrong, but they are a little annoying, and the bow actually completely removes the annoyance. I probably have some clips on the screen, but you can literally easily kill so many NPCs before they even get to you. It's easily the fastest for farming in my opinion, because unlike Greatsword where you actually have to run all the way to the NPC, you can literally be halfway across the map damn near and still kill them, and you don't even have to waste time parrying and whatnot because they don't even get to you by the time you kill them. And on top of that, like I said, the skills are really good and have really good utility, and they also have really good AoE, which isn't the most useful thing in the game, but AoE is still good. For example, you know how I told you guys Ice has stun, right? For whatever reason, bow has a stun move. It's a stun arrow that actually stuns for way longer than the ice arrow, to be fair, or ice ball or whatever it's called. To be fair though, the bow does have a much longer cooldown cooldown on it, but in actuality that's really not as big of a deal as it might seem, because the long cooldown lets you actually regen your stamina, so you really aren't going to be running out like you would on other things like mage, for example. Using bow basically feels like you're using greatsword if it get hit across the map. That's the only way I could describe it. And another thing about bow, it also has a really good mobility, but those mobility skills also do pretty good damage as well. Some of them really good damage. I mean, comparing that to Dagger, where Dagger's whole skill for one of them is literally just mobility, it doesn't have any actual damage with the skill. It basically just makes this thing where you shoot NPCs across the map, they finally get to you. If they're not dead by the time they get to you, you just pop one of your skills that actually sends you backwards or send you forwards, basically separating the gap again, and you just kill them before they even get to you again. Well, with all that being said, don't nerf bow. We love bow, don't nerf bow. But with that being said, I feel like for PvE, bow is just clearly the best. I don't really see an argument for anything else to be better, and that's simply overall PvE. Obviously there might be some scenarios where bow's not the best. That's not what I'm saying. I just mean as the overall package. But most of this stuff, in my opinion, is still debatable, so let me know what you guys think. And this is all based on my personal experience, so I definitely could be wrong, but I'm not gonna lie, if you're in the comments telling me Dagger is better than bow, bro, I'm gonna be so real with you. I'm not wrong, bro. You're wrong, gang. But let me chill. I'm being for real though. If you guys actually have an argument for why you think a different weapon is above each other, I'm definitely open to hear it. This isn't a concrete list or anything. Like I said, most things on this list are in the game right now are actually pretty good, but I'm sure there will be some more balance changes, and I'll probably have to update this list later. So if you guys want me to do that, hit the like and subscribe button. I'm gonna be y'all Devas creation plug, and I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I see y'all Devas viewers watching the videos, but you're not hitting the subscribe button. I see it, and you know I understand it, but why? You know what I'm saying? Can you do me a favor, please? Just hit it, bro. I appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Later.